Okay, see how this works. I'm going to adjust the other camera. Hi. Trying to get technology back together after not the worst ice storm in the country, even right now, but it's an experience. So I turned my computer on for the first time in a week. I think I was online midday Friday. It's midday Thursday right now. So 6 days. Turned on my computer. I don't think it knew what to do. It was looking at everything and just confused. So it took like a half an hour to get it started. And then I bet if you look closely in the Craftovision view, you will see ants everywhere. I'm in my studio right now, and because of my health, I can't eat sugar. So the most in the way of sugar that gets in here, and these are sugar ants, is if I have like maple syrup in a drink or something like that. Like sugar doesn't come back here, and I haven't even been in this part of the house until last night. It's really uncomfortable without heat and no light. So the living room had better natural light as well as the gas fireplace, which. So before I go too far into that, I'm going to turn off this video. I'm watching too many screens at once. Stop video. All right, now it's just my goddamn face. So I'm gonna grab this other screen and see if I can get it. Get the Craftovision close up. What? Nice, my hair is falling out. Okay. I have my tray of sequins, which I am compulsive enough to I buy a bulk container because it's super cheap to buy a bulk container, and then I hand sort the different kinds of sequins, and I put it in a little box. You can do it either way, but I like organized. I also, so yeah, everything adjusted. Yeah. So sugar ants, there are sugar ants everywhere in the house. And I have 3 different kinds of poison because sugar ants are a big issue in this town regardless. But since about 3 days before the ice storm, the ants went nuts. So it's kind of making me nervous that they're still freaking out, but just hope it's over for now. It was a wild couple of days. So I'm going to get ready to craft. I'm working on a mask. This turns into seaming and everything. So, like that. Dragon mouth. I'm drawn in the lines just to sort of follow with sequencing. Sequencing. That sounds wrong, but it's sequencing. Anyways. All right, so sequencing today, get the camera set up that I can yak about our crazy ice storms. So while I'm working on this camera setup, this is a great time if you are able to look into, if you are in a position to do so, because pretty much everybody is righteously screwed at this point. So you know, you do what you can. But if you are in a position to help, the best way to help people at this point would be to donate locally. Local charities are the best way to get aid directly to the people who need it the most. Um, in Silverton area, that would be Sheltering Silverton. That would be SACA Silverton. Um, those would be the two main organizations. There are also a lot of churches in town that are able to that are doing free meals and that sort of thing. So if you're able to help locally, there is a lot of cleanup and everything that has to happen because it's trash. And so locally in Texas and in other states, there are probably great organizations um, to donate to because winter's not over. We don't even know if this is going to be the only one. So, okay, so test the other camera. Um, Craft O Vision started. This is my remote. For that might just work. Let's see how that goes because I just knew the top of my head, so I might shut this guy down. But okay, now I'm set up. I have Crafto Vision going. Leave it there. Don't actually know how my sound is, but don't really think it matters because this is just for fun. So this Crafternoon, we're going to be working on this mask, which is right here for the moment, and chatting about the insanity that just went down in my little town of Silverton, Oregon, where I have lived since December 5th of 2005. That is another story. Okay. Be sure. Oh, that's upside down. That's going to be awkward. So short disclaimer as to why I don't care. This is, but it doesn't matter if it's jumpy or not because um, a lot of this is just testing camera angles and how the Zoom does live and getting potentially footage for editing together more concise video. Not really focused on concise right now. Crafternoons are all just about chilling out, not worrying about the day. How's your day going? What are you up to? Oh, I don't know. I'm just crafting. Um, so yeah, that's facing the right way. That looks better. Good. Visible. It's much work. Okay, set up for crafting. What are we doing? We're doing sequins. We are doing sequins on a mask that will later be stitched around the edge to one of my standard masks, which are 2 layers of cotton material, like t-shirt material, with that flat plastic that you'll see for like hair bands and stuff. Do I have any around? Possibly. Yes, I do. So this is what one of the bands looks like. So it's shinier on one side, not shiny on the other. And then those are essentially looped like that onto the main mask. And then these are bent in half around the ear and stitched right there. And what that does is it allows the mask to sit nice and flat against the face, and the ear band gets as small as possible around the back of the ear. So, and these are great because they don't snag on hair and they won't bunch up, and they are nice and elastic, but firm. So I choose those. Plus, they come in fun colors and stay well, don't bunch. Yeah. So I am going to turn off this video for a while because I don't really need it. So yeah, actually, I am going to do that. All right, so hopefully my audio has switched over. I do my classes through the Zoom so that I have the option of the second camera, but don't really feel like I need it right now. So we'll just go back to this. Okay, so what happened? Started Friday afternoon. Actually started before that. One thing I've always noticed with weather reports is if they put out a warning a week in advance, it'll usually disappear in a day or two. Like winter storm advisory or watch or whatever specific term that they use matters, but it doesn't matter as much as the timing. So if they put one out about a week in advance, and far up, so let's adjust this back a little, see how that works. So it usually goes away in a couple days. Okay, fine. But if it doesn't go away in a couple days, but it was put out about a week before, usually about 2 or 3 days in advance, it'll go from advisory to warning, or from warning to like watch or whatever. It'll go up a level. And as soon as it does that, you know that things are gonna get sketchy. You just know that things are gonna get bad. And because what that means is it's not just, not that that's the only time it gets bad, obviously, but there are patterns. There are patterns that happen. Sorry, total brain fart. There are patterns that happen in weather that if they tell you about a week beforehand, this might get bad, and then about 3 days before, 2 days before, they say, yeah, this definitely could get bad. Believe it. Just believe it. And so I was right now. Let me just explain where I am on this. Is this focusing like at all? I think the reflection is messing with it, but so basically I put down one layer of large green sequins so that I could do this layer of red, and these are actually leaves. I don't know if you can tell. You can kind of tell. Sorry.
That's fine. Anyways, so distracted. There are just ants everywhere and it's driving me nuts. But give it a couple days. So these are just basic green sequins. And then these are actually maple leaves. So yeah, I obsessively watch the Weather Channel, or not the Weather Channel. I watch weather apps and stay track of what's going on with general weather, and noticed that pattern happen where it came out with a like, oh hey, there might be a little something, and then 2 days before they're like, ah, there really might be something, and then I realized that within that the ants were going insane, like everywhere in the house, like places that don't even have food, that don't have water. Like those are the two things ants look for, but they were just desperately looking for anything everywhere. And as soon as something would get left out, like cat food or something, they would just swarm it like the little freaking monsters that they are. Honestly, I mean, ants are awful. I think you don't go to hell, you become a sugar ant. Um, but then Friday morning, they extended the watch or the advisory or whatever. It's like, okay, so now they're admitting it's coming and it'll be here for a while. So I immediately started being sure that my um, emergency supplies were accessible, and being sure that my headlamp was where I needed it to be. Well, headlamp, one of my 7 headlamps, 5 headlamps. I don't know. I have different headlamps for different reasons, and they all come in handy at different times. Um, Set those out, check for all of the candles, which luckily we have tons of candles around, including decorative as well as like 9-hour emergency candles. Good number of those. Well, it's like 3 or 4 of those around. Got all those organized. Was sure that I knew where lighters were. We always have water. I both have. I have a Life Water straw and a Life Water like water bottle, like big, I don't know, liter water bottle, something like that. Liter of cola, you know what I'm saying. I'm sure to have that already. Sort of went through our food supply, be sure we had stuff going on. Just with the assumption that even if it didn't become anything, it's better to be ready and comfortable instead of panicked and, you know, panic buying toilet paper at the local grocery store. So I like to be prepared. 2 big things that I discovered that I was not prepared with were not knowing when power would come back on. Like I would be fine if it would be if yeah, I'll get into that later. um, I learned it's worth investing in solar chargers. That's the biggest lesson. Because I bought the last time there was a brownout. Well, I guess it was a blackout. The power went out for a couple hours a couple years ago, and I was dog sitting at a house, so I didn't have like all of my stuff with me, and I didn't have all of my supplies, and I was at a house that I couldn't find a flashlight. My phone was dying, the whole bit. Luckily, I had access to a vehicle and did exactly what I did this time and charged my phone inside of a vehicle. and warmed up and everything. And so I had ordered some solar chargers, literally like packed up me and the dog out in the car. Um, my ears are green. Um, I piled into the car with the dog. Let's move this back. We're just too damn close today. What is going on? There we go. That may be a bit better. I think that looks a little better. Anywho, so yeah, I was out of the car with the dog and went on Amazon and ordered charging stuff, which all turned out to be total shite. So if anybody has any suggestions for a good quality solar charger company that doesn't support sketchy shit, and maybe something even that's just sewed through. This is why paying attention is so important. So what am I gonna do with that? I don't think I can make it back through, so I'm just gonna cut my losses on that, literally. So I'm usually silent during these things. It's hard to it's hard to do some of this stuff while yakking, even if you're only half paying attention to what you're yakking about. So I'm just gonna get on with the story so that I can stop talking and focus on crafting, because I am super stoked to be finally working on this project again. Because it's one of those I enjoy that gets put off for various reasons, but just decided this is what I want to work on today for as long as I can handle hand stitching, which is looks like about 2 hours, and then I'll probably move on to some epoxy or working on my CSA stuff, because it's got onions going and lupine and lots of seedlings going for all my CSA members. So super stoked about that, but today is not according to the Ed Hugh moon planting guide. Today is not a good day to plant vegetables and flowers and stuff. It's biennials and perennials, I think, but I did my artichoke and other perennials last planting time, and then I was supposed to do my brassicas and stuff today, or not today, on Friday, but that didn't happen. So yeah, that swings on back to Friday. I was supposed to do a class for my CSA, an online class. Stay safe, stay home out there. And for some reason I had thought it was at noon, so I got everything ready and realized that it wasn't till 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock. It was 6 o'clock. I don't know why I scheduled it that way, but I scheduled it 6 o'clock. And so I think I went live for a couple minutes just with like a little preview teaser of the seeds that I was going to work on. But then I noticed that there was, it never really got to be even chunky rain. Like it never got anywhere close to snow. Like it wasn't even sleet. It was straight up rain, but the rain was so cold that as soon as it hit a surface that wasn't cement, it would adhere. It would just adhere. And I think I really noticed, I don't know, there's probably a time stamp on it or something of when exactly I Actually, no, I woke up to icicles. That's what it was. I woke up to icicles. And that was the first moment at which I was like, oh, fuck. I don't, icicles, like I've never seen icicles on the roof of the house that I live in right now. I've been here for 2 years, April. And I had never seen icicles, like even a little bit in the middle of, something. And so I woke up to that and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. And continued to watch the weather report. And it's like, okay, shit's supposed to get bad around 4. Okay, cool. So fast forward, we're around noon right now, and I'm still just sort of getting ready for my seedling class or my starting class, and just hanging out and doing my thing and looking outside and realizing that this was something, because the icicles just kept getting bigger and they kept appearing on other things. And yeah, so like I said, I gathered all my supplies up, realized that I had still left my butane stove. Unfortunately, I left that up in Portland, Oregon, when we had evacuated during the fire last summer. And I had brought camping supplies because, like, we didn't know where we'd actually end up. Or we first went to a friend's house, or the parents of a friend, and thought we might have to camp out on their property. But yeah, then we got evacuated from there, then we went home and got evacuated from there again. It was just weird. It was a weird time. That was another weird time. So back to the weird time of this week. Get twisted. Big thing about sequencing is being sure. Sequening. Trying to get shit to point in the direction you want it to point in. Especially stuff like this where it's a little more, I don't know, I guess I'd almost say sculptural rather than, I'm not going for repetition, I'm going for texture and shape and everything. So it can be a little weird to try to get stuff pointing in the right direction, but I think that's going pretty much how I expected or hoped for. Okay, so we're at about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock on Friday at this point. Icicles are forming, things are getting worse and worse. I start to gather everything up. And then I'm watching my new show, which runs from 3 to 5 p.m. And that's the point at which it starts to get dark. And it's definitely getting dark outside, and it continues to grow icicle wise. And then suddenly around, I think it was right around 4:30, the power went out altogether, and it wasn't a flicker or it was going out for a while. Like, it just was gone in a moment. And so stopped what I was doing, because whatever I was doing required electricity, I'm sure. I don't even know what I was doing, but I'm sure I might have been going, I think I was messing around on my computer. I think I was working on computer stuff at that point. And it's like, okay, well, that's done at least for a while. So what did I do then? Went around and lit a couple candles, turned on the gas fireplace immediately because it was supposed to get really cold that night. So I wanted to just keep a nice, reasonable, moderate heat going in the house, especially because, who knows if the gas lines were going to go out at some point. That's always a worry. So went ahead and turned that on. Then it was just sort of like, wait, what's gonna happen? What's gonna go on? And my office that I'm in right now is on the opposite side of my house is sort of like an old 50s style rambler, 2 bedroom, decent size, but it was built by a little retiree couple who needed like a bedroom and a place to have guests over. So that's kind of how the house is built. Um, so I went and hung out in the living room next to the fireplace and mucked about on my phone and started the book by C.S. Lewis, That Hideous Strength, which is quite interesting. Super not like it was, yeah, it was super weird. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed C.S. Lewis's work. Of course, mostly Narnia series, but Great Divorce is really cool too. That's a weird book about death by that same author. Anyways, sat by the fire, chilled with my roommate's cats, and listened to sirens going and cars speeding around outside, and yeah, just pretty much just hung out that first evening. When my roommate came home, see, I don't know if you can see it, fucking ants, they're everywhere. Oh my god, they're just everywhere. Yeah, by the time my roommate got home, it was just pitch black outside. And we live pretty much right in the center of the downtown area. Well, downtown Silverton is like 3 square blocks, and then there's sort of the extended downtown area that goes for maybe another block, but it's sort of right around a little creek that goes through town, Silver Creek. And so yeah, downtown all told is maybe 5 square blocks, and I live 2 blocks from that, so right next to downtown, right in the middle of things. It was just pitch black outside, other than cars racing around that obviously were like, oh my god, I need to go buy toilet paper or whatever, like whatever people needed to go to the store for. Okay, all the green are out of that, so those can move up there, and we'll start another batch. Yeah, all kinds of kind of blurs at this point, but at a certain point, you just start to hear things crack. Like there's a certain point at which things just go to crack. Oh yeah, I did a it didn't really get visibly bad until after dark that night. Because it would just, because I mean, if you think about the way that an ice storm works, the initial layers of ice hit a branch, which is, say, 3 to 5 millimeters at the tip and a couple inches at the base. Way to switch measuring systems, but hey, whatevs. So the ice hits it and it does a little coating. Okay, so coating's just like it builds up over hours to be a millimeter thick. Well, that's not much. That's not gonna do much. But then you have to think exponentially as to how that coating scenario would work. Because not only as it, if you think of a candle, when you dip a candle the first time, you dip the wick. If you've ever dipped candles, I guess this is specifically to those of you who have done traditional dipping of candles. But anyways, you dip you dip the wick, and it gets a little coat of wax on it. Well, if you burnt that at that point, it wouldn't do much of anything. Um, it's not a candle yet. But you then dip it again, and it gets a little thicker and a little thicker, a little thicker. Well, that's basically what was happening to everything outside during this, 20-hour period or whatever that this rain was coming down. And then you also have to consider the fact that, okay, so let's go to the smallest variation of that, because that's the most impactful. You're looking at a thick branch that goes into all these tiny, tiny, tiny thin little branches that are suddenly go from 4 or 5 millimeters thick to 6 millimeters thick, let's say it starts at 5 millimeters and it goes to 6 millimeters thick. Okay, well, that's not a huge thing. Even though there's 2,000 of these, extension branches that are all thin, they come off out of the tree. That's still not very thick, but then you give it 5 hours of 1 more millimeter. Well, every little millimeter of ice that goes onto it not only is another millimeter on a 5-inch thing, but then it's another millimeter on a 6-inch thing, which is more surface area, thus more weight, thus more cold, thus, sprinkling ice water onto an ice cube, the shape of a tree, basically. So everything gets really heavy, everything pulls down, a lot of things snap. So at one point I went out and my bamboo, which the owners of my property bought, when they bought it, they put in bamboo into this very narrow channel cement divider between our driveway and the neighbor's driveway. And they did it as a privacy shield. And it grows, like, I have to cut it down when it hits like 14 to 18 feet, because it starts to get close to our electrical line, and don't want that to happen. But then I just use it in the garden. So it's radically awesome aggressively reproducing resource in the garden. But the ice had gotten so heavy and so thick on every single one of those little leaves and every single one of those little stalks that it had bent flat over in half and then solidified as just a bent in half clump. So yeah, at a certain point you just hear cracking and popping from all over town. And my roommate and I hung out in the living room during the evening. And as trees were going down, you could just hear, the continuous just cracking and popping going constantly. And you could also see other transformers, like power transformers up on power lines and everything, as power lines got dropped and as literally power poles got snapped in half and stuff. Just transformers, which they're kind of beautiful. They looked like multicolored lightning in the distance, which was kind of pretty, but it was not at all pretty. Really, it was awful, and it was really kind of scary, to a big degree as well, because weren't really getting any updated information other than the weren't getting really much of any information other than the fact that um, other than the fact that the warning was going further, and then not much else, that the weather warning was happening for a longer period of time. That was the biggest. Anyways, so distracted. There are just ants everywhere. It's driving me nuts. Okay, that was weird. Sorry. Suddenly my life started going there. Anyways, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know why I keep doing the New Zealand so. Yeah, and at one point my roommate like was like, I'm gonna go out for a walk. I'm like, okay, dude, just like be safe. And he said that he went like a block in every direction, but like nothing was, like everything was down, and looks like more was going to be coming down, and everything was just trashed. So I think his first walk was like 5 minutes, and the second walk was like maybe 15 minutes. But yeah, luckily, nobody like we didn't hear sirens. Let's put it that way. We didn't hear any sirens, which seemed like a good sign. Um, though at one point they had to block off a major hill street, Oak Street, that's just I don't know about, well, technically 1 block away. Um, but it's a really long block, so it's like a city block in a small town, so it's not totally a block. Anywho, they had to block that off, which meant that all of the traffic was diverted onto the street that I live on, which had no power and has like a T. It's technically an intersection, but like one side of it's a dirt road that leads to some houses, and then the through street doesn't have a stop sign, but then the other third paved street has a stop sign as well. And we're on the corner lot, like right next to that, and people were just blazing through all night. It was so disturbing. It's like, okay, it's icy, the lines are down, everybody's panicked. Don't drive like an asshole. Like, how hard is that? Like, I don't, oh. So yeah, people were blazing through. Everything was popping, cracking. It was weird. It was very surreal. It was the first time I'd ever felt like um kind of trapped in this house. Like, it was weird. But yeah, luckily my roommate parked his vehicle. So let's see where we're at. You can see here, this started as something else, but I made the 8th wrong. So yeah, now it's all going to be sequined. Luckily my roommate has a vehicle, and so he parked it in our driveway, which is usually, I have a little shop area set up for seedlings and artwork and stuff in my driveway. But we wanted to be able to charge stuff. Where did my thread go? We wanted to be able to charge our phones, because though both of us own, he has a charger, like an emergency charger thing, and I had 3, count them, 3 chargers that I had ordered through that last crisis, and none of them worked. So yeah, that was money well spent. So yeah, again, if anybody has any suggestions for a company for chargers, that would be awesome. So none of those worked. We wanted to charge our phones, and thank goodness for me, because I'm such a movie dork and need, something playing in the background sound wise, or it drives me nuts. I have a little portable DVD player that I had purchased for when I lived Actually, no, this was the replacement for the one that I bought when I lived in a trailer, 18-foot RV for a year. Um, because I realized if I got one that could be plugged into a car, um, like the car charger thing, the RV that I had actually had a car charger port that went directly to the solar panels, that not the solar panel that charged the second battery, but to the to a separate one. Like the way that it was set up, it like was split off, and so I would be able to charge a DVD player. Oh shit, my phone. Well, someone's knocking at my door, so crap. Okay, well, that was fun. My sewing machine needles just showed up a day before expected. So that was unexpectedly awesome, because that means that I can go and work on my quilt. So I'm going to do that in just a couple minutes, because yeah, I think I'll just, yeah, I only have like 20 minutes left. Yeah, so totally distracted by the fact that my sewing needles are here, because now I want to go and finish up my quilt and 3 pillows that I started hand stitching as part of my um, isolation from with this ice storm thing. Um, so yeah, that first night was crazy. It was really surreal to suddenly have my phone, which at that point was still sort of my lifeline of like looking up the weather and checking on people and all that sort of stuff. At a certain point, it didn't just, say no service. It was like said no network. And I think that was the first time that I was just like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't how this is supposed to work, you know. But I mean, it is the way that it's supposed to work because that's just how it's gonna work at some point. But um it definitely was a moment of huh when it says no network, because that means that, like, the network is down, which is disconcerting when you're not even really getting updates through the emergency weather channels. They were just saying, oh, north wind at this and da da da. I'm like, yeah, but can you tell me like more? And then at one point they said that there's no report from Salem. Like, oh, that's a good sign. That's definitely a good sign if there's no report from the state capitol. That's awesome. So yeah, going to sleep in that scenario was really strange. You know, woke up the next morning and it was pretty cold. We had left the gas stove going overnight, and luckily that never went out during the entire process, which, I mean, hallelujah on that one, because oh my God, it was brutally cold in there for a while too. It was brutally cold in there for a while. Or outside there. So the next morning I went out and I took pictures and took video with the last little bit of my battery. So I was without a phone the next day for a while. Oh no, that was, God, was that before? It's all getting so muddled now. It was all just bizarre. Um, but yeah, so it just got it all got so surreal, and taking pictures of everything. Like, the next morning woke up and realized that there are two small-ish trees in my um I, there are two small-ish trees. I mean, they're smaller now, honestly, but there are two smallish trees, a lilac tree, which, oh, it's just so nice to have during the summer. It smells so pretty. And then a Japanese maple that have the beautiful sort of like crimson purple leaves to them. And in the morning, the iris tree had split. So second day, this was Saturday. The iris tree had split basically down the center. It was like 10 shoots coming up from the bottom, and half of them, oops, dismiss. Half of the tree, like the tree on the side of that's towards the sidewalk, like half the tree had fallen down, and it was right where my roommate usually parks. So thank goodness that he parked in the driveway, because he probably would have lost a window at least. Because 1,000 of those little 5 millimeter branches with 4 inches of or whatever of ice on them gets pretty heavy and pretty destructive pretty quickly, as we discovered just looking around in every direction. Like, neighbor across the street lost a tree in the front yard. An old oak across the street is just mangled, and it's still mangled. Like, that's going to be a while before that tree, if they don't end up just taking it down, because it's more likely to just take it down because it is tore up. um yeah, so the whole town just got pretty decimated. There are whole areas at this point. um Okay, so next day was Saturday. Saturday kind of went by uneventfully. I worked on my quilt, read That Hideous Strength. Wait, did I start? Yeah, I think I started my quilt the second day. Seemed appropriate somehow. Um, yeah, I just kind of waited. Is one of those things where it's like, okay, so I adjusted my bedroom setup so that I could have my bedroom door open, which is the door that's closest to the fireplace, so that I could keep my bedroom door open more effectively. And, it was like that was the kind of project stuff for the second day. Cause it's like, okay, so how long is this going to be? Is this going to be like, is power going to come on while I'm adjusting for this stuff? Or are we looking at like 3 days, 4 days? So I spent Saturday just kind of prepping and organizing and whatever. Um, and then again, went to sleep. I think we lost the phones on Saturday. Trying to think. No, I think it was the first day. Again, it's all so muddled because it got to a certain point where it didn't even matter if it was, I mean, the only difference between daylight and nightlight was it the sun or was it a candle? Because, couldn't really do much of anything. Everything was shut down. Apparently Roth's was the only thing that was open, and it was slammed. Apparently there were just tons of people in there and no social distancing, no nothing. So that's awesome. That's going to result in a nice little spike in the next couple weeks. So yay for that to look forward to. But yeah, I think for the most part, people just stayed home, which is good. Um, and yeah, it's kind of like how winter kind of functions for more agrarian societies throughout history. You do all the major work during the spring and summer and fall, and then winter is just kind of like, oh, I need another quilt, let's sew a quilt, or we need to repair the house, let's repair the house, or you know that sort of thing. So it just kind of felt like that for a couple of days. Destruction was sad, but yeah, so the Saturday when it all started to melt, um was pretty epic because it went from trees were still continuing to crack because as the ice was melting, it was then bearing the weight of the melting water and everything, and so there was more cracking and popping and stuff going on then. um but the major part of the destruction was over. But yeah, there's we didn't get power back until Monday around 11:30, so it was almost 3 hours plus 3.5 days, something like that, between when the power went out and came back in. I have friends that are still in town. It's Wednesday afternoon now, 2 days later, and they don't even have, like, there aren't electrical cords in the sky. So and one friend in particular that I know lives like 3 blocks in one direction. She just got power back yesterday. But then this other friend who lives up on past Danger Hill, um and they're trying to move right now. Oh Jesus. um they still don't have power, and there are areas of town that don't even have yeah, they don't have the wires up. Like the furthest the repairs have been getting to the areas and getting the cords down and getting the downed lines, the down dead lines out of the way. um so that is pretty much the update. It's weird because it's not going to be the only time this happens. Um, and I imagine that over time, every year is going to be worse. We're going to be dealing with more fires, and we're going to be dealing with more ice storms. So the big thing I learned was, it is worth the big things that you need. Um, this of course is first world edition of dealing with this sort of thing, and I have no question that, or no doubt in my mind that the luxury and privilege of having a gas fire and having the infrastructure set up, that gas continued to be pumped into my house, and the fact that I have a house, and the fact that I have food in the cupboards and extra blankets, and there was so much, there was so much privilege, and I feel very blessed in the situation that I'm in. And so from here on out, it's about making my situation the best it can be, so that I am in a position to allow others comfort in my ability to maintain warmth or whatever. So one of the things I'm planning on doing is getting a box of disposable emergency masks. I have plenty for like daily, well, weekly use when I actually leave the house once a freaking blue moon. Um, but have those in so that they're just readily available. Be sure that I have sanitizer, that sort of thing, because if this happens again for a longer period of time, um, I want to be able to have people at very least come by and warm themselves up, charge their phones, whatever. I'm going to be investing at some point when I can invest in something other than sustaining life. I am going to get a couple more solar chargers that are of good quality, because those would have been a great idea. They would have been a great idea. Unfortunately, since they didn't effing work the second time I tried to charge them, yeah, somebody's getting a bad review online. But emergency stuff is important, so that's something I feel I need to invest in. For anybody who didn't think about it, headlamps are the best for that situation. I often will craft by headlamp anyways, because it gives me the opportunity to have the light pointing at exactly what I'm looking at. So I don't have to, not that I mean, technically, I guess I'm supposed to wear glasses, but I don't like wearing glasses, and I don't wear glasses, and I haven't since college because I'm stubborn and I don't know, stupid, whatever. But a headlamp puts light exactly where I need it, so I'm able to continuously work on whatever, and I can go from looking here to here, but I can see exactly what I'm looking on. And it's the same concept during a blackout like that. Your hands are free, whatever you're looking at is lit up. So I actually have multiple ones around the house. So those are something that are important. Um, what food and water. Big thing with food and water is accessibility and caloric and nutritional value. So the big thing that for potable water, like the emergency thing of filling your tub or having emergency water around or whatever is great. And I always have at least like 2 or 3 jugs. Um, I think at this point in the house, we have like three carboys full of well water from my roommate's family's property. Um, which I think got a little ashy, but and then multiple like bottles of non-potable water in containers in the back of the garage. And then of course, if there's emergency, you fill the tub and da da da. But I have life straws, because then basically you can just stick your face in any body of water and you're good. So, and with the creek right near us, that's not a bad thing for a long term. Plus, with the amount of water we have stored, we have the equipment and the ability to set up a catchment system within like a day. Because I have all the equipment for a um, basic water catchment system and collection system, that wouldn't be hard to set up, but just don't really. Rawr, that's looking fun. Um, so yeah, I think at this point I'm going to call it a day because I know I got started late. This is gonna be hilarious. But my needles came from my sewing machine, so I gotta go and finish up my quilt. I might work on this later, but yeah, that was basically the deep freeze story. We're still dealing with um sorry, trying to get do.
So now that's the, yeah, here we go. So that's right in there, but yeah, so that was, ooh, am I muted? I'm unmuted. Here we go. Okay. So now we're not right under there. So yeah, that was the ice storm. It's still going on, really, like the weather down south, because of their ice storm situation is still going on, still ongoing, still major. They are not getting the support that they need from um, some of their government. So if you are able to help, there are lots of great local charities, I'm sure, that you can donate to. I'm sure they need blankets. I'm sure there's a lot of things that they need. Much of Texas and the South is under a no, you have to boil your water. But they don't have, like, not all areas have water and not all areas have power. And there isn't seeming to be a lot of um, proactive discussion to make this better in the future. So it's just going to get worse in the future, it, most likely, most likely. Um, so hopefully everybody will take this as a learning experience and I don't know, be prepared, be ready. At this point, I now have one scenario set up for bad inclement weather when I'm trapped in the house.
because freezing rain is going to happen more just based on freezing rain and bad weather, just based on the models and everything. And it might happen again this year, though hopefully not. But then we're looking at additional fires in the summer, which we had to evacuate for. So I have to have the emergency set up for when I'm trapped at home, and then the emergency set up for when we have to leave the house. And I think I have it both worked out. You know, I'm getting closer now that I know that I need new emergency chargers. I'm also going to be making, I do them for camping. They're sort of a hybrid energy replacement meal bar thing, but I do both sweet ones. Like I've done ones that are like mounds or different candy bars, flavored, not actual dark chocolate. But also do like savory ones. So I'm gonna make a bunch of those and air package those. But other than that, I feel really fortunate. Although honestly, the second full day, because people were starting to get their power back on, and it's like I was getting really frustrated with the fact that I had all these things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't really do it without power. But other people were getting power, so we might get power soon. And so yeah, I just rage quilted because there wasn't much. There just wasn't much else that could be done. We're going to be using a lot of the broken branches and stuff to make features out in the garden, because the lilac tree branches are really long and straight, and might build a bench out of them or something. And yeah, I mean, there wasn't no loss, but there was a good amount of people come together. There were just dudes in trucks driving around town cutting branches down. Apparently they weren't even like accepting money. So yeah, thank you to our town for just being cool and not freaking out. And thank you, Mother Nature, for giving us just a little bit of a bitch slap and not just knocking us on our ass the first time. Because if this happens in a month, and if it happens in a more like that's happening in Texas, or that it powers down for longer, or the temperatures remain colder for longer, whatever worsening version can happen, or if it just happens again next year and it's worse, hopefully this will be enough to get people to stay safe. So yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. It was weird. It's over for now. And now I'm going to go and play with my new sewing needle so I can finish up my quilt, and the pillows, and 3 matching pillows. So we'll see how those turn out. Yeah, I'll post those on. We've been doing Instagram mostly because I keep getting kicked off Facebook for bullying people. So looking on Instagram for those pictures. I think I'm Crafty Kiki Apocalypse. Yeah, Crafty Kiki Apocalypse on Instagram. And Farmer Kiki on the Facebook stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna go play with my sewing machine. Hope y'all are having a good day. Peace.